So now we're working on the reverse set of points. The lock screw is here. You can't see it for that wire. And now move the wire so you can see the lock screw, and the adjusting screw is now hidden. So to make the points open later, I want to close the gap a little bit. And that screw is smaller than the previous one, so I have to change my screwdriver tip. So loosen that locking screw, and with the needle set exactly where we want the points to open, the points are open, so we want to close the points. So I'm rotating this screw counterclockwise. Actually, we want that screw clockwise until they open. I'll just try that. No. The points are open and we want them closed. Sorry, bumping the camera with my hand in the way here. Okay, the points are okay, 0, 100, 70. So we want the points to open. Top dead center, 172. Okay, so we want the points open right now. Sorry, closed right now. Okay, when I loosen the lock screw, the points moved enough so that they're closed. And then we want them to open at 172. And the engine's going backwards, and we're way too late. So if I set the needle where the so I set the needle late and adjust the points till the light goes out. Which is a challenge because I've got the screwdriver against the wire. Okay, so we want the light out right now. Okay, so the light is out. The points are open. So rotate the engine forward again. So the points close. Well, they're way out. Anyway, as you can see, this is a very fiddly operation. A lot of back and forth, checking and adjusting. but we have to stick with it until the points are set right or the engine won't run right. And a small amount of adjustment at the points can make a large difference in timing. So I'll continue with this and come back when and show you how well I made out. I think I have them very close. So with the piston coming up, turning the crankshaft backwards, there's our 172. So it's coming at 169. So it's 3 thou late on the reverse direction. So late ignition timing is actually a little more favorable than timing that's too far advanced. Getting ready to put the cylinder head on, first thing we're going to need is a stud. There's one stud and 3 bolts holding the cylinder head on, and the stud goes in the front right. So I'm going to thread it in if I can by hand. Until it bottoms out. Then I have to take the 3 nuts and washer off of it. If I turn the ratchet the right way. Fortunately, the British standard wrench of 5/16 for these nuts translates to about 5/8 of an inch in an SAE socket. I'll take the nuts off of the stud. There are 3 nuts here because one goes against the cylinder head, one holds a washer up and we put the cooling shroud on, then put another washer and another nut. So there's 3 nuts on this stud. So the nuts are all off of there. So now we can install our head gasket. It's a thin aluminum head gasket. Goes on with the passage for the decompressor there. Holes are precisely cut. And then we can place our cylinder head on, and I want to remove the spark plug from this cylinder head before I put the cylinder head on. Actually, maybe I'll remove the spark plug after the cylinder head is on so then I can get a better grip on it. And actually, before I put the cylinder head on, I'm going to remove some of the old carbon that's here. So I'm going to shut the camera off, take some of my favorite penetrating oil, spray it in here, take a nylon brush and clean that up a bit. There we go. Combustion chambers, not clean as new, but a lot cleaner. A soft bristled brush, a brass brush, and a nylon brush were used. That way I didn't scratch the combustion chamber, and just some penetrating oil. So now I'll put the cylinder head on with the spark plug hole facing the rear. and we'll install some bolts. Make sure to line up the holes for the head gasket. And oh, there's the other bolt I'm looking for. There, and this washer goes on the stud, and I believe that was the nut that was on that stud. Now we'll just set the wrench the right direction and tighten it down. Or, sorry, crank them down so they're almost to the point where I can tighten them, and then I'll use a torque wrench to torque them to the specified torque in the manual. Just tightening them, well, just seating them, tightening them, turning them until they're just touching the washer. I feel them starting to tighten a little bit, and then I'll put the torque wrench at the right setting and tighten them at the correct setting. This is the stud, that's why it's taking so long to tighten up. And they're all about the same, just snug. So now we'll use that socket again, and I'll have to find the torque spec. And it's not on, no, it's not on this page. I'll be right back. So I took a quick look in the manual. It says the cylinder head bolts should be 390 inch-pounds. I have a wrench where settings are marked in inch-pounds, and it only goes to 250. So I need to convert inch-pounds to foot-pounds so I can use my other wrench. So 290, I better check that because I got interrupted by something shiny. Be right back. Good thing I checked. That is 390 inch-pounds, so 390 divided by 12 equals 32.5 foot-pounds. So we're going to round up to 33 foot-pounds. So we'll put the inch-pound torque wrench away, get the foot-pound torque wrench out. Set the torque wrench to, there is, you can't see it, I can just barely see it, 30 and 3. When I went to school, 30 plus 3 is 33. And leave it up here, even though it's not absolutely critical. You see what I'm doing? I'm just going to tighten them in a crisscross pattern. So I'll tighten this one a little. I'm not going to tighten it right till it clicks. Tighten this one a little. And this here a little. Turning the wrench about the same amount. And this one a little. And I think I started here. A little. Just a little more. Close. So back to the first one. Click of the wrench. Oops. Click of the wrench means we're at the torque setting we set the wrench to. those already clicked. I'm just going to go back over them and make sure. Just click it a little bit past, just so I know I'm at the spec. Just in case there's a little bit of variance in the wrench. So that should click on each one. For sure that one. Yes. That one for sure. All torqued. Alrighty. Next, I think we'll put the carburetor on. I'll just put some of these tools away and I'll come right back. Now that the head is torqued, I'm just going to put these nuts back on this stud, which is where they belong. These are used to hold the cooling shroud position. There's actually should be one more washer here, but for now we'll just put them on so they don't get misplaced. And we will take this out of here. This is where I've been storing the cover for the points. Get that out of the way. Now we have our carburetor. We'll remove the air filter. Carburetor has been cleaned and inspected. It's ready to go back on. Now, carburetor is on the intake manifold. The intake manifold clamp is not tight. I'll tighten that clamp after the intake manifold is on in case the carburetor is not at the right angle. And we have two gaskets slash insulators here. I'm just going to wipe them off. This is what most of the engines like this that I work on have. They have two, they almost look like Bakelite for those who are familiar with that. This is usually what I find between the intake port and the inlet manifold, the intake manifold. We have two gasket slash spacers, so we'll put them in. We could have done this before we put that nasty cover over the primary chain here, because that gets in the way of this screw on the left hand side too. And it looks like this screw is just going to line up. Using my hand as far as we can. The one on the left needs the 3/16 British Standard size wrench. I'm just going to spin these in until everything's kind of touching here, not tight yet. And being careful of this flange over here, this part of the, this is part of the cooling duct, I guess, to direct air to the cylinder and head, and it overhangs the side of the gas thing, and it's very fragile. It can crack to about there if you're not careful, from what I hear. Okay, so those are snug. I just want those snug, and then I'll position the carburetor where it should be. I like that clamp to be at the bottom. I haven't got the right screwdriver for this. Actually, this screwdriver fits this well. I like the clamp at the bottom. It doesn't really matter. But once the shroud goes on, if for any reason you need to get out the clamp, it's easier to get out with the clamp clamp screw at the bottom. So I'll tighten that snug. Then we'll tighten the two screws holding the inlet manifold to the cylinder, and is that the same? No, it's 5/16. You want 3/16. I'm going to put the wrench on the screw head like this and then use another wrench as a handle, because I can't get that wrench, well, I can sort of get it on there. There, I didn't have to do that. So that is a little tighter. So we'll try that this way. The wrench on the flats, put the other wrench in here, and be careful if the wrench slips, I don't want to skin my knuckles. That seems tight. Try it again with the wrench the proper way. And those screws have lock washers under their heads. So those are tight. Air filter, there's a notch here and a tab here. Goes on, also says top right there. So if we put the base on, snap the clips on, the air filter's on. Oh, I might as well put the cover over the points while I'm here. Oh, look at all these empty bags I have now. There's one more gasket. I have a gasket here for the top disc. Don't want to lose that, and the badge has come off the air filter. I'll have to get some contact cement, I guess. Glue that on. I'm just going to pan down here. Actually, we'll crank the camera down. So we want our wires so they're not likely to rub and short anything out. The two screws for the covers are here. The cover is here. The screws for the cover is there. Now, I may have a gasket for that. There is a gasket for that in the gasket set. It's right here. There's the gasket. Now this cover actually has a small piece broken out of it. I think it will be fine. I could order a replacement cover if it was a concern, but it's not. I'll take these screws out. Make sure the cover's going on the right way up, at least. The cover's actually not going to be very visible when the engine's installed in the machine, but that doesn't mean we can do a sloppy job of putting it back together. The gasket's not quite lined up. There we go. I think there's enough left of that cover that that screw will hold it securely. Sorry, I kicked the camera stand again. We're getting closer. Yeah, that will hold that cover. Alrighty, almost complete with assembly. I'll get some contact cement and put that badge back on. We need to torque the nuts that hold the fan on, so I'll find some soft nylon rope and we'll do that bit of business when we come back. With the spark plug out and the crankshaft rotated the right direction, I believe. Yes. Turning the engine backwards, which is the direction I'll be turning it to tighten the nut. I'm going to take some nylon rope, some soft nylon rope. This is actually a starter rope, a new starter rope. I'm just going to feed as much as I can into the spark plug hole, which of course fills the combustion chamber with rope so the engine cannot come over top dead center. Now, apparently Villiers did make a tool for holding the fan for doing this, but I haven't been able to find a picture of the tool, let alone one of the tools. So I'm going to use this method, which is maybe not preferable. Preferable to using an impact wrench, I guess, which will give you a torque spec you're not sure of. The torque spec given for this nut, the first nut, is 700 inch-pounds, which according to my calculations is approximately 58 foot-pounds. Okay, so well, it's still taking rope in here. The nut is approximately the same size as the spark plug, so it's 13/16. So I have the socket on the torque wrench, and the torque wrench already set to the foot-pound equivalent of 700 inch-pounds. So I'm going to try this. I'll just rotate this by hand. It should stop. There, it stopped. So now, make sure we're firmly on the nut. Gently tighten this until we hear that old click. There's our click. Again, I'll just go a little bit past it. So there's our click. The first nut is torqued to the equivalent of 700 inch-pounds per the manual. Now there's a second nut, actually a third nut if you count the one turning the torque wrench. Second nut, and it's supposed to be torqued to 100 inch-pounds. So 100 divided by 12 equals, that's only 8 foot-pounds. I better check that. That doesn't seem like very much. No, I just checked the manual and it does say 100 inch-pounds. So 8 foot-pounds. Might have to go back to the other wrench for that. I don't know if this wrench reads that low. It does not. So we'll have to put the foot-pound torque wrench away. I know I brought the other one for a reason. Get this wrench out, and of course it likes a 3/8 socket. This is a 1/2 inch drive socket. So I said 100 inch-pounds, which would be halfway between 90 and 110. There's 90, and 10 is 100. Then we need a 13/16 socket that will fit. I now have a socket that fits my torque wrench, and the torque wrench is set at 100 inch-pounds. So we'll make sure we just put the socket on the one nut we're trying to turn. And that didn't seem like very much. that is torque to spec. Now we will turn the engine back slightly, move the piston down by rotating the engine counterclockwise, and remove the rope and make sure we have all of the rope that we put in there. We do. So the fan is torqued, head is torqued, carburetor's on. Ignition timing is set. Well, I guess if the screen was here, and I think it is, I could put it on. And then we could consider putting this into a machine and see if it'll start. So I think we'll save that for another day. It's a little drizzly here right now, so, and I'm working outside, so I'll wait till a drier day. But when we come back, we'll be putting this puppy in a test penguin and seeing if we can get it to make some good sounding noises. 3, 2, 1, mark. There are a few things one thing we should do before we put the engine in and test run it, and another thing I want to do, just before I forget, to possibly make things easier in the future. So what we need to do is we need to put some oil in the chain case and the transmission. The manual recommends, and it even says on the filler caps, SAE 20 in the chain case and SAE 30 in the transmission. I use straight SAE 30 heavy duty in both. So what I'm going to do here is we take the cap off the chain case and we take the level check plug out. The engine should be reasonably level, or in the position it's going to be in the machine. I think it's reasonably close to the angle it's going to be in the machine. So taking a clean funnel, having a cloth at hand and the wrench and the plug to reinstall, I'm going to just slowly pour our 30 weight oil in until it comes up high enough that it begins to run out the hole here. This may take a moment. The oil's cool. It's a little cooler out here today. Actually, it's flowing not too bad. I don't want to pour it in too fast, or we'll end up with a rather large mess here. So it's running out. Put the check plug in. Tighten it up. And just make sure that the two drain plugs underneath here are tight while we're at it. One there and one back in here. They both have, actually all three of them have new fiber washers on them to seal them. Could have actually put the oil in a little before this. The longer it sits with oil in it, the better, because then if there's a leak, an exterior leak, we can find it and fix it before we put the engine in a machine. We'll put that plug in and just snug it. Clean up a little dribble here. Lid on the oil. Move the funnel because I want to turn the engine around here. Just turn the engine around. Make sure you can see where I'm working. Oh, change the angle a wee bit here. There. Okay, so the dipstick, plug, and fill hole, I guess, are here, and there is a level check plug here. I'll take the air filter out of the way. remove the dipstick. Some people suggest actually removing the dipstick altogether because I guess in extended use they can break and end up in the transmission. I haven't actually come across a broken one myself, but using the level check plug would solve the mystery of the oil level. But in our machines it's a little more difficult to get at these plugs and see them. And again, just before I put any oil in it, I'll just check to make sure the drain plug is tight. And the dipstick went onto the floor. So, and clean funnel. Air filter would really be in the way here. After the engine's run, I'll check. After the engine has been run, I will check the levels again. And just add this slowly until it starts to dribble out the hole. Make sure I remember where I put the plug. There we go. Oil's running out. Plug in. Lid back on the oil bottle so before I knock it over. Put it away so I don't knock it over. Tighten the plug. And clean up our spill. Makes it easier to see if anything's leaking if we wipe all the spilled oil up. And we can take the dipstick and just check it. Screw it in lightly, take it back out, and the oil's going to be clean and hard to see. But you know, we wipe it on our finger, we can see that it's up to the little notch in the dipstick, so we are definitely at least at the full level. And these plugs, both the dipstick cap and the cap here have a vent in them, so that's done. Hopefully we don't spy any leaks. But we have oil in there to lubricate everything when we're running it. Now I'll just, actually I don't need to turn the engine around, I just need to change the camera angle. The next thing I'd like to do is put some timing marks on this engine so that if there's a issue and it might point towards something timing related, the ignition timing can be quickly checked without having to remove the cylinder head. So what I need for that is a piston stop. I've made it out of an old spark plug with the porcelain part, this part here, broken off and the ground electrode taken off, and I've put a bolt through it. So we'll remove the actual spark plug, and making sure the piston isn't already at top dead center. I can see in the exhaust port that it's down very low. So with the piston stop, we will find top dead center. now, what I'm going to do is carefully and slowly rotate the crankshaft in the forward direction until the piston hits the piston stop. We're getting close. We're on a complete revolution. We must have, yes, we have. Piston stop didn't stop anything. No, the piston stop's not screwed in all the way. Okay, so I'll put the piston back down in the bore. And the washer's jammed. Yeah, the washer's jammed on it sideways a little bit. There. Put that in again. Make sure it's all the way to the bottom this time. Actually, it's there. Now we're at the bottom of the threads. So we'll try that again. Rotate crankshaft in the forward rotation, direction of forward rotation. Slowly and carefully. There, we meet resistance. So now I'll just pick one of these fan blades. I'm going to pick this fan blade right here and color it red with my marker. And on the fan housing, right where the fan blade is, I'm going to use a grease pencil and make a reference mark. Then I'm going to rotate the engine backwards. It won't go any more forwards because of the piston stop. I'll rotate it slowly and carefully backwards. Okay, careful not to break any more fan blades off. And there's our marked fan blade. It should come to a stop. Let's come to a stop right there. So we don't want to mark that in red. We just want a temporary reference point there. So that is where that fan blade stopped. Going in the reverse direction. It should stop exactly in the same spot going forward. I'm not sure exactly why I'm doing this. Yes, it stopped in the same position it did before. So, top dead center is halfway between those two marks. I'm not sure if you can see the red fan blade is down here where you can't actually see it. I should have picked one up a little higher, but just a second here, I'll move the camera so you can see. Maybe. Okay, there are our two marks. That one for forward, that one for reverse. See, there's the red fan blade, which you still can't see. You can just see the edge of it there. That's the red fan blade there. And when I rotate it the other way, it stopped there. So if I put these two fan blades, the one you can't see, and this one here, move this again. Never at the right angle here. Oh, no, you can't see the fan at all. Okay. Okay, I'll just hold the camera, so bear with me. The camera might move a bit. So I've set these two fan blades, this one and this one, so they're about an equal distance away from the reference marks. this fan blade is halfway between those two fan blades, so it should be halfway between those two marks. So there is where top dead center is. Now it doesn't actually matter which fan blade we use to mark where top dead center is. So I'm actually going to, since I'm making these marks to make it easier to check the timing when the engine is in the machine, I picked a spot where they're a little bit difficult to see, or going to be a little difficult to see when the engine's in the machine. So if I put this fan blade where that mark is that I just made, I'll go to the next fan blade, which should be more visible when the engine is in the machine, and make this our top dead center reference. And I'm going to be so bold as to actually put that in a permanent marker. And again, you're having a hard time seeing this. I'll set the camera down here in a second. So here is where I'm going to make the permanent top dead center mark. And I'm just going to make that mark a little longer. Well, having camera issues here. There we go. Now you can see where I've made the mark. And I'm going to actually confirm that it is 0 by putting a 0 on it. Now, in my experience, I have seen that when you do this and you when you check the ignition timing should come up so that it's 1.5 fan blades away from top dead center. So I'm going to just take a second here and wipe those other marks off there. We're probably already confused enough as it is, so I'll just take these other non-required marks off here. They were just reference marks. The one we want to stay is the 0. Okay, so that's our 0. So I'm going to, just for reference, put a mark halfway between these two fan blades that you can't see again because of the camera angle. So I've gone the distance of 1.5 fan blades away. I'm pretty sure when we check our ignition timing with the light, that is where, or we're going to be very close to those marks with the fan blade. I'm now going to have to make this one our 0. Yes, this one will have to be our 0. And I'll just confirm that. So there's, in forward rotation, it's, no, look at that. I messed up. You can tell I haven't practiced this before I do the demonstration. Okay. Mark this, get rid of this other red one too, since we moved the reference fan blade. I'm trying to explain this to make it clear, and I think I'm just making it more confusing. So, rotating the piston forward, it's come to a stop. You want to mark this fan blade. Then when we go reverse, again, that has stopped here. Now this will show up if I've made an error in putting a 0, which is possible. rotate it backwards. There's our marked blade. Okay, and there. So our marked blade is now on this side of the 0. So if we put 2, so halfway between those is 0. Because the piston has stopped before it's reached top dead center going both directions, if we kept backing the piston stop out a little bit and a little bit, those marks will get closer together until they were very close together, and then the piston would go over top dead center. It might be fine to it might be hard to find exactly top dead center using the piston stop and only using one reference mark. So that should be 0. So now we don't need the piston stop anymore. And having it snug in the cylinder head helps make sure it doesn't move as we put the piston against it, so it makes the forward and reverse marks that we put a little more accurate, even though this is just for a quick reference. It's not meant to be exact. So with the piston stop out, now connect our test light to our forward set of points. Was that the red set or the black set? The wire. Let's see. We should be able to figure it out just by using the test light. So connect it to the black. I could go back to the video and see. So with the test light connected to the black wire, we'll put that should be top dead center. So if we move it back, okay, our light's on. So the black wire is our forward set of points, I believe. So now if I turn the crankshaft until the light goes out, there, the light is out. And you should be able to tell because I'm zoomed right in on the light and you can't see the fan marks. My goodness, I'm not doing this very well. I'll put this back here, maybe. Back here. It's hard to put it where you can see it, where it's not in our way, because I'm zoomed in so close. I'll put it there, and you'll maybe have to believe me when I tell you the light has gone out. Just a sec here. Just in view, maybe? Just in view. I'll hold it there. So if I rotate the engine backwards, the light is on. Going forward, the light should go there. The light is off, and you can see here's the red fan blade, and my mark that I took a guess at is very close to that. It's actually a little later than that. So since we checked the ignition timing and set it using the dial indicator, I know that the points are set very close to where they should be. They're definitely within spec. So I'm going to make a mark there and put an F there. That's for forward. So that, if we check this again with just using the timing light without using the dial indicator, we can be confident that that's not going to allow us to set the points exactly, but we'll be able to tell if they're way out of adjustment at least. Now, okay, so my mark that I took the guess at is just out of view. Still just out of view. There it is, just in view right there. So we'll have to change the test light to our other points wire, the red one, which should be for reverse, for red. And rotating the engine backwards. The points are closed, so now the ignition coil would be charging up. And then our a red blade is the next one from that. You can't see it, but I can see it coming into view. So the light should go out. The light is out, and look at that, very close to my mark. So again, we'll make a mark. We'll get aside. I'm going to put an R there. R. And I should write it upside right, except I'm writing it with my wrong hand. So that's reverse. So if you're doing this without knowing that the points are set right, and I'll just disconnect the light here. Doesn't need to be there. After you find top dead center, which is there, if you go 1 1/2 fan blade, the distance of 1 1/2 fan blades, and put a mark each way, that should be approximately where your ignition timing should be set for forward and reverse. I'm not sure what this mark is here. I think that's supposed to be a forward. Oh, it is a forward. It is an F. So that's just something I do to make it easier to check the timing without taking the cylinder head off and using the dial indicator, especially if you're trying to do this while the engine's in the machine. Just doing a quick check for oil leaks underneath the engine here. I don't see any oil dripping out, so now that we've put those marks on there, I'm going to just screw the spark plug in by hand to keep dirt out. And we'll get the test Penguin ready to put this engine in it. See if we can hear it run today. We are now looking at the engine compartment of the test Penguin. The Penguin I use to test engines in because the top has been removed from it. So I have a temporary fuel tank installed at the back here, and I've got an instrument panel and wiring rigged up too. So our engine will mount to the front of the mount using a bolt through this hole here, bolt through this hole here, and then we have positive and negative battery cables here ready to go, and the throttle and choke slides that I usually use to test engines are here. So of course that means even if I set the carburetor up to run well when it's installed here, it may need a little bit of tweaking. So I'm trying to get the wires out of the way here. When the engine has the correct to it slide and needle installed. So I just have to get ready to hoist the engine out of the stand I've got it in now and set it in here. I'll be right back.